I 22F, desperately need advice about a situation with my family, particularly my sister Susan, 24F. I've been a long-time lurker, but recent events have pushed me to finally share my story. This might be a bit long, so please bear with me. I'm actually shaking as I type this, partly from anger and partly from fear of what might happen when they realize I'm reaching out for help. I recently graduated from college and landed my dream job at a prestigious tech company. Everything was going perfectly. I worked hard through college, maintained a 3.9 GPA with a partial scholarship, and secured this position through multiple rounds of competitive interviews. The company is known for having an excellent work culture and great career growth opportunities. After years of walking on eggshells at home, I was genuinely excited about starting my professional life. The welcome party for new employees is tomorrow evening. It's a formal event where new hires get to meet senior management and team leaders. Several VPs will be there, and it's known to be a crucial networking opportunity that can shape your career path within the company. I saved up for months from my part-time jobs to buy a suitable dress, nothing extravagant, but professional and elegant. It cost me $400, which represents countless hours of tutoring and weekend shifts at a local cafe. My parents, both 45, didn't contribute a penny, which wasn't surprising given their history of favoring my sister. You see, my sister Susan has always been the golden child. She's currently unemployed after failing to graduate college twice. She spent most of her time partying and posting on social media, while our parents funded her lifestyle without question. They've spent thousands on her shopping sprees, fancy electronics, and even a car, which she crashed within 3 months. Meanwhile, I had to work part-time jobs since high school to buy basic necessities like school supplies and clothes. The disparity in treatment started early. When I was 5, I got a small art set for Christmas from our aunt. Susan threw such a violent tantrum that my parents took it away and gave it to her, even though she had already received numerous expensive gifts. They told me I needed to learn to share, and that Susan is more sensitive. This became the template for our entire childhood. Growing up, Susan would regularly throw tantrums if I received anything nice. When I was 12, I won a science competition at school. Instead of celebrating, Susan had a meltdown because she wasn't getting any attention. My parents' solution? They took away my trophy and certificate to avoid triggering Susan's anxiety. They even made me skip the awards ceremony because Susan couldn't handle seeing me on stage. This pattern continued throughout my life. Any achievement or happiness of mine was seen as a threat to Susan's well-being. The situation got worse as we grew older. Susan developed a habit of taking my things without permission. Clothes, books, electronics, nothing was off limits. If I complained, my parents would lecture me about being selfish and inconsiderate of my sister's feelings. They would say things like, "Susan is sensitive and needs more support. You're stronger, so you need to compromise." When I got my first smartphone at 16, bought with my own money from tutoring, Susan demanded it because hers was outdated. It was only 6 months old. My parents forced me to trade phones with her. There were countless incidents where Susan would physically assault me when she didn't get her way. She once pushed me down the stairs because I refused to let her use my laptop for a social media live stream. I sprained my ankle, but my parents didn't take me to the hospital. Instead, they told me to stay in my room and not provoke Susan further. Another time, she slapped me across the face at a family gathering because I got more compliments about my academic achievements. My parents pulled me aside and scolded me for showing off and making Susan feel bad. The emotional abuse was even worse than the physical. Susan would regularly tell me that I was unwanted, that our parents had me just to give her a sibling. She'd make fun of my appearance, spread rumors about me at school, and even sabotage my friendships. When I was 15, I had my first boyfriend. Susan told him I was cheating on him. I wasn't, and showed him edited screenshots of fake conversations. He broke up with me, and when I confronted Susan, she just laughed. Our parents? They said I shouldn't have started dating in the first place because it made Susan feel lonely. Through all of this, I learned to keep my head down and focus on my studies. My dream of financial independence kept me going through the worst times. I stopped expecting any support or validation from my family. I even planned to move out as soon as I started earning, hoping to finally break free from this toxic environment. I threw myself into academics and extracurriculars, anything to stay away from home as much as possible. During college, I thought things might get better since I was living in the dorms. But Susan would regularly show up unannounced, demand money or clothes, and throw fits if I refused. My parents would call and berate me for not taking care of my sister, even though she was supposed to be the older one. They even tried to force me to drop out when Susan failed her classes the second time, saying it wasn't fair for me to continue my education when she couldn't. But yesterday, everything came to a head. 1 hour before I was supposed to try on my dress for final adjustments, Susan burst into my room with our parents. She demanded my dress for her upcoming job interview. When I refused, she started screaming about how I was showing off by getting a job before her, how I was deliberately trying to make her look bad, and how I'd always been a selfish, attention-seeking brat. Our parents, predictably, took her side. "Your sister needs this more than you," Mom said, using that guilt-tripping tone I've grown to hate. "She has interviews lined up, and this dress would really boost her confidence. You can wear something else to your party. Why do you always have to be so difficult?" I tried explaining how important this event was for my career, how I'd saved up for months to buy the dress, how this was my one chance to make a good first impression at my new workplace. But Dad cut me off, his face red with anger. "Stop being difficult. You know how hard this period has been for Susan. Why do you always have to make everything about yourself? Can't you think about your sister's feelings for once?" The worst part? Susan had already returned her own expensive dress, bought by our parents for $2,000, and spent the money on makeup and a new iPhone case. She didn't even have any real interviews scheduled, she just wanted my dress because it was mine. I later overheard her on the phone with her friend, laughing about how she was going to take care of her sister's attitude problem. What makes this situation different from previous ones is that my grandmother, 71F, is expecting photos from the welcome party. She's always been more reasonable than my parents, but living in another state means she's not fully aware of our family dynamics. She specifically asked me to send her pictures of my outfit, saying how proud she was that I'd secured such a good job right out of college. She even mentioned wanting to frame the photo for her living room. I'm currently locked in my room, trying to figure out what to do. My hands are trembling as I type this. My sister is still throwing a tantrum outside, screaming that I'm ruining her life and that she'll make me regret being born. I can hear her banging on my door, threatening to break it down. My parents keep texting me to stop being selfish and think about family harmony. They're threatening to ground me, yes, at 22, and take away my phone if I don't comply. Should I just give in again to keep the peace? I know if I don't, they might physically force me to hand over the dress, or Susan might destroy it out of spite like she's done with my things before. But I'm so tired of being the family scapegoat. This welcome party means everything to me, it's my first step toward independence, my chance to start building a life away from their toxic influence. I also can't help but wonder if telling my grandmother the truth about what's happening would make any difference. She's always been kind to me, but my parents have drilled into my head that reaching out to relatives would only bring shame to the family, and that no one would believe me anyway. They've spent years convincing me that their treatment is normal, that I'm the problem for not being more accommodating. I feel lost and don't know what to do. Any advice would be deeply appreciated. Am I being unreasonable for wanting to keep my own dress that I bought with my own money? How do I handle this situation without causing more drama, but also without giving up something that means so much to me? I feel like I'm having a panic attack just thinking about confronting them. The welcome party is tomorrow evening, and I need to make a decision soon. I've worked so hard to get here, and it feels devastating that even this achievement is being overshadowed by my sister's demands and my parents' enabling behavior. The thought of showing up in something inappropriate and potentially damaging my professional image is terrifying, but so is the thought of another violent confrontation with Susan. Thank you for reading this far. I've never really told anyone the full extent of what goes on in our house, and just writing this all down feels both terrifying and somewhat liberating. I keep second-guessing myself, wondering if I'm overreacting or if I'm the crazy one for thinking this isn't normal. Any advice or support would mean the world to me right now. Update 1. First, Thank you all for your supportive comments on my original post. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours, and everything has changed. Yesterday, after posting, my grandmother called asking about the welcome party pictures. When I started making excuses, she immediately knew something was wrong. She insisted on picking me up for lunch today, claiming she needed help with grocery shopping. My parents couldn't refuse her without raising suspicions. At a quiet cafe away from home, my grandmother took my hands and said, "Now, tell me everything." Something about her gentle tone broke all my defenses. For the first time, I told someone the complete truth about our family dynamics. I told her about Susan destroying my school projects, shredding my college prep books, and ruining my prom dress with bleach. I shared years of incidents that I'd kept hidden out of fear and shame. My grandmother listened without interrupting, but I could see her hands shaking with anger. When I finished, she revealed that she and other relatives had suspected problems for years but couldn't prove anything because my parents always maintained a perfect family image at gatherings. Right there in the cafe, she started calling family members, aunts, uncles, and family friends. As she made these calls, my phone started buzzing non-stop with messages from my family. Mom sent increasingly frantic texts, "How dare you spread lies about our family? After everything we've done for you. You're making your sister cry again." Susan's messages started with guilt tripping, "I can't believe you'd do this to me. You know I'm sensitive." Then quickly turned to threats, "You better tell Grandma you were lying, or I'll make sure you regret it. Remember your prom dress? This will be worse. Dad joined in, your mother is having a breakdown because of you. Come home right now and fix this mess you've created." But this time, their threats didn't affect me the same way. Each message only proved everything I'd told my grandmother. While they were sending these threats, my grandmother showed me dozens of supportive messages from relatives who were finally learning the truth. The family's response has been overwhelming. My aunt apologized for believing Susan's lies about me being mean to her. My uncle offered to help me find an apartment near my workplace. Another aunt suggested therapy and offered to cover the costs. My grandmother made it clear she won't let them intimidate me anymore. She's contacted her lawyer and bought me a new dress for the welcome party, one that's safely stored at my aunt's house. Even family friends have started sharing their observations of Susan's concerning behavior at gatherings, including a child psychologist who had noticed red flags years ago. I'm writing this from my aunt's house. My parents are still sending messages threatening to cut me off financially, irrelevant since I support myself, and to tell everyone what a horrible daughter I am. Susan's latest threat was about ruining my career, but it doesn't frighten me anymore. For the first time, I'm not facing their abuse alone. Tomorrow, I'll attend the welcome party in my new dress, with my aunt driving me there for safety. My grandmother has advised me to document everything from now on, including Susan's threats. Thank you, Reddit, for helping me see that what I've normalized isn't normal at all. I'll update again when I can. Update 2. I never expected things to escalate so quickly after my last update. I'm writing this from my grandmother's house with a broken nose and mixed emotions about everything that's happened. The day after my welcome party, my grandmother surprised me with a new MacBook for work. She had it delivered to my aunt's house first, knowing Susan's history with my possessions. When I went home to pack some clothes, I thought my parents and Susan would be out. I was wrong. Susan was waiting in my room. She'd somehow found out about the laptop through social media. My cousin had posted a congratulatory message about my new job and mentioned the gift. What happened next still feels surreal. "So you're accepting bribes from Grandma now?" Susan was sitting on my bed, scrolling through her phone. Her voice was eerily calm. "You think you can turn the whole family against us?" I tried to quickly grab some clothes and leave, but she blocked the door. "Remember when we were kids, and Mom always said sharing is caring?" She smiled, but her eyes were cold. "Grandma needs to learn that lesson too. Hand over the laptop." When I refused, explaining that I needed it for my new job, she suddenly grabbed my hair and slammed my face into the doorframe. I heard a crack and felt warm blood streaming from my nose. The pain was intense, but what hurt more was hearing my parents' reaction. They rushed upstairs when they heard the commotion, but instead of helping me, Mom started screaming at me for provoking Susan. Dad just stood there, telling me I should have known better than to flaunt my new gift in front of my sister. Thankfully, my aunt had insisted on waiting outside in her car. When she heard the shouting, she came in and found me bleeding. What happened next was like a scene from a movie. My aunt called both the police and my grandmother. Within an hour, my grandmother arrived with 2 other aunts and an uncle. The police took statements and photographs of my injuries. Susan kept changing her story, first claiming it was an accident, then saying I had attacked her first, finally breaking down and screaming that I deserved it for stealing her family. The most surprising development wasn't the police involvement, it was the community response. While I was at the hospital getting my nose treated, the story spread through our extended family and social circles. My parents' carefully maintained image of a perfect family crumbled completely. Their country club membership was quietly revoked. Mom's bridge club uninvited her from their weekly meetings. Dad's golf buddies suddenly became too busy to play. Susan's few remaining friends started sharing stories of her violent outbursts they'd witnessed over the years. The social isolation hit my parents hard. They've spent years cultivating their image as perfect parents with 2 daughters, the sensitive artist, Susan, and the difficult one, me. Now everyone knows the truth, and they can't handle it. They've been calling relatives non-stop, trying to do damage control. Their latest story is that I'm having a mental breakdown and making up lies about Susan. But nobody's buying it anymore, especially after the police report. Susan's reaction to the social fallout has been particularly concerning. She created multiple social media accounts to harass me and spread lies about our family situation. She even showed up at my workplace, trying to convince my new colleagues that I'm unstable. Thankfully, my manager was already aware of the situation through my uncle, who works in HR, and had security escort her out. My grandmother's lawyer helped me file for a restraining order against Susan. The evidence was overwhelming: years of documented incidents, witness statements from family members and friends, and now police photographs of my injuries. I'm staying at my grandmother's house now, and the contrast with my old life is startling. No one here tells me to stop provoking my sister. No one demands I give up my possessions to keep the peace. I can leave my laptop on my desk without fear of it disappearing. The support from my extended family continues to amaze me. Cousins I haven't spoken to in years have reached out to share their own observations of Susan's behavior at family gatherings. My aunt's friend, a therapist, helped me understand that what I experienced was chronic abuse enabled by my parents. Meanwhile, my parents' social circle keeps shrinking. Their neighbors no longer stop to chat. Mom's social media posts about praying for her troubled daughters are met with cold silence or outright criticism. Dad's business partners have started distancing themselves, concerned about his judgment after learning how he handled the family situation. Susan's job prospects, already slim, have become nearly non-existent. Word travels fast in our community, and her violent outburst has become public knowledge. She's blaming me for ruining her life, but for once, other people are seeing her threats for what they really are. I'm still processing everything that's happened. My nose will heal, but watching my parents' carefully constructed facade crumble has been both satisfying and sad. They're facing the natural consequences of their choices, and no amount of manipulation can fix it this time. I'll update again when there's more to share. Thank you all for your support. It helped me stand firm when Susan demanded the laptop, even though the consequences were painful. Sometimes things have to get worse before they can get better. Update 3. Thank you for all the support on my previous updates. It's been a whirlwind few days, and I wanted to share some significant developments. My recovery is going well. The swelling in my nose has gone down, though the bruising looks worse. The doctor says there won't be any permanent damage, which is a relief considering my upcoming work presentations. Living at my grandmother's house has become permanent, and the contrast with my old life is striking. This morning, I accidentally dropped a coffee mug and caught myself flinching, expecting screaming and punishment. Instead, I got grandmother's gentle concern and help cleaning up. The community response has been overwhelming. Mom's social media presence imploded after her prayer request post about her troubled daughters backfired. Susan's former classmates flooded the comments with their own stories of her bullying and violence. Dad's business has taken a significant hit. Several long-term clients have left, and his partners called an emergency meeting to discuss his position after learning about his role in enabling Susan's behavior. They're particularly concerned about his judgment in leadership positions now. Susan has been spiraling since the restraining order. She created multiple fake accounts to harass me and my supporters, but accidentally posted from her main account, providing more evidence for the legal case. A shocking revelation came from my aunt. My parents had repeatedly turned down suggestions for Susan to get psychological help when she was younger. They were more concerned about maintaining their perfect family image than addressing the actual issues. My parents' attempts to regain control have failed spectacularly. Their family dinner to clear the air only attracted 2 distant relatives. Mom's best friend publicly unfriended her after seeing the police report photos. Dad was asked to step down from church leadership, and Mom's gardening club voted to continue without her. The most validating moment came when my high school counselor reached out, apologizing for not doing more when she noticed signs of abuse years ago. My parents had convinced her that my withdrawn behavior was teenage rebellion and Susan's aggression was artistic temperament. My workplace has been incredibly supportive after Susan's attempt to cause trouble. My manager implemented extra security measures, and colleagues have been understanding about my situation. Yesterday, my uncle made a public post detailing years of concerning behavior he'd witnessed. His post went viral in our community, leading to more social fallout. Our parents' standing in the neighborhood has crumbled. The homeowners association removed Mom from the board, and they can't shop without facing whispers and stares. Susan's victim narrative is failing. She had a meltdown at our aunt's church when someone mentioned my name, confirming everything people had heard about her behavior. I'm still adjusting to life without constant fear. My grandmother enrolled me in therapy, and it's helping me understand how abnormal my home life was. My parents' recent cease and desist letter about spreading falsehoods was met with police report photos and witness statements from our lawyer. The support from this community has been invaluable. You helped me see that I wasn't crazy for thinking my situation was abnormal. I'll post a final update when things settle completely, but for now, I'm focusing on healing and building my new life. It's amazing how much energy you have when you're not constantly walking on eggshells. Update 4, it's been 6 months since my last update, and I think it's finally time to close this chapter of my life. Thank you to everyone who's followed my journey and offered support. I'm now thriving in my job, recently receiving my first promotion after leading a successful project. My team lead praised my attention to detail and calm approach to crisis management, skills I developed while managing my family's chaos all those years. My personal life has transformed completely. I've moved into my own apartment, though I still visit my grandmother regularly. The first night in my new place, I realized I could leave my belongings anywhere without fear of them being taken or destroyed. Simple things like having my own space and making decisions without anxiety feel like precious gifts. Susan was recently diagnosed with several mental health conditions after being required to undergo evaluation as part of her anger management program. She's currently in a specialized treatment facility, not by choice, but as a condition of her probation after another violent incident, not involving me. My parents have faced significant consequences. Dad's firm asked him to take early retirement after major clients expressed concerns about his judgment. Mom has become a social pariah in their community. Their attempts to join a new church congregation failed when members of their old church shared their history. They're selling their house and planning to move to another state for a fresh start, though their reputation has somehow preceded them in several communities they've considered. The constant cold shoulders and whispered comments became too much for them. The most unexpected development has been the ripple effect in our extended family. My story encouraged 2 cousins to speak up about their own experiences with family abuse. It's like lifting the veil of silence has allowed others to finally acknowledge their own struggles. Work has become my safe haven. I recently designed a support system for new employees, and my manager praised my unique insight into creating supportive environments. The irony isn't lost on me that my past struggles have become a source of professional strength. My parents made one final attempt at reconciliation last month, sending a carefully worded letter through their new lawyer suggesting family therapy. My grandmother's lawyer responded simply, "All communication must go through legal channels, and I'm not interested in reconciliation." The most rewarding change has been in my relationships with extended family. Sunday dinners at my grandmother's house have become a tradition, filled with genuine laughter and warmth. My aunts and uncles share stories about my childhood that my parents had twisted or hidden, helping me reclaim parts of my history. I've started mentoring at a local youth center, working with teenagers from difficult family situations. One girl recently told me that my story gave her the courage to speak up about her own sister's abuse. My grandmother has become my biggest supporter. She's shown me what healthy family love looks like, unconditional, but with proper boundaries. Susan's restraining order is permanent now, and she's legally barred from coming near my workplace or residence. The community's response has been a lesson in social justice. My parents and Susan didn't face legal consequences beyond the restraining order, but the social isolation and loss of status have been more effective than any court sentence. I'm finally building the life I always dreamed of but never thought possible. I have a thriving career, a supportive circle of friends, and most importantly, peace of mind. I no longer jump at sudden noises or apologize for existing. This will be my final update. To anyone in a similar situation, it's never too late to speak up and reclaim your life. Sometimes the hardest step is believing you deserve better.